It is a question that a lot of parents ask themselves. How much screen time is too much when it comes to our kids? But is that the question that we should be asking? A new study suggests that we should focus not just on overuse of screens, but on whether our kids are actually addicted to using the technology. The study, which was published in the medical journal JAMA, found that children with a high or increasing use of social media and cell phones were at 2 to 3 times greater risk for suicidal behavior. The kids participating in this, there were thousands of them. They were 9 to 10 years old when this study started. With us now is Dr. Victoria Dunckley. She is a child psychiatrist, and she's also the author of the book Reset Your Child's Brain, a 4-week plan to end meltdowns, raise grades, and boost social skills by reversing the effects of electronic screen time. Dr. Dunckley, this study looked at a lot of kids here, and by the end of it, when they go from 9 to 10 up to age 14, there were significant minorities of them addicted to social media or just to their phone entirely or to video games, almost half in some of those categories. What is your reaction to these findings?
That pretty much matches what we see. About 1 in 3 kids will either be addicted or have some kind of side effect from screen time. Even within the same family, if they have more than 1 or 2 kids, they often parents will say, you know, this child is okay, but my other child has a problem with it. So those are really high odds that we shouldn't be gambling with.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because I have heard some parents say, oh yeah, my kids, you know, they can just put the tablet down and then they go off and do other things. I personally have not found that in my house, right? The tablet might as well be super glued to their hands. So we have put them away. But what makes some kids get more addicted than other kids?
That's a great question. I think some kids are just going to have an underlying vulnerability. So they might be, you know, have mild attention issues that makes them more prone to being attracted to something that's highly attractive, that's very stimulating. Other kids might be shy, so they're drawn to screens because it's more satisfying, or it helps them get out of awkward situations. So whatever the child's vulnerability is, screen time tends to make that worse. So if they have attention issues, that'll be worse. If they have mood issues, they're going to be more irritable or depressed. If they have, you know, obsessive compulsive tendencies, that'll come out. If they have tics, that'll come out. So kind of across the board, what we see is those symptoms or dysfunction are magnified by screen time. So some kids are more resilient and you may not see it. Other kids, you know, just a little bit of screen time can make everything worse. And you don't actually know for that individual child until you remove them completely and see what happens.
Yeah, and when we look at this study, I mean, this is alarm bells for so many parents. If you're talking about mental health issues and suicidality caused by these kinds of addictions, your book is a how-to on implementing a screen time fast in a household. I used it. How do parents support kids as they are doing this, as they are doing a screen time fast? Because it's a really intimidating thing in this day and age.
Yes, I think the first thing to start with is just education about how screen time impacts the brain and how it impacts the sense of self and development over time. So what we know is that screen time triggers a stress response. The brain, the arousal system becomes activated, so the child becomes more aroused, but at the same time, they're sedentary. So we have this kind of mismatch between fight or flight hormones and being still. So all of that kind of gets pent up and can either manifest in aggression or internalize and manifest as depression and anxiety. As that worsens, the child may report that nothing feels good. You know, their dopamine pathways are desensitized, so they can't find pleasure in things anymore. And then the other thing we know is light at night from screen time desynchronizes the body clock, and that may impact serotonin and other chemicals that lead to that suicidal thinking. So in my experience, it's very hard to treat these kids without addressing screen time. And even though most parents just want to cut back, it really works so much better to just get rid of it completely. And then for at least 3 to 4 weeks, and then we go from there. Some kids might be able to tolerate a little bit, you know, if it's very dialed back, and other kids, they just can't. So we try to continue relative abstinence for as long as possible. The longer the child is without screens as they age, the more resilient they will be.
So you're kind of approaching it like removing an ingredient from a diet that someone might be allergic to.
Exactly.
Okay, and so
Exactly. Some kids are just going to be more sensitive.
yeah, and so we've had guests on who they talk about they're potting up with other families to go screen free because they know there's so much peer pressure about it, right? What do you say to parents who they might worry about keeping their kids from doing what all the other kids are doing, or also they have kids who are a little older and they have to do homework on a computer?
Yes. I think for when kids are younger, it's easier, obviously. I think the pendulum is swinging the other way now. So I really encourage to talk to other parents and see who's on board. Some people might be open to it, but you never know until you ask. It is obviously easier if you have other people who are like-minded. And even if they're not doing the same thing you're doing, if they'll respect what you're doing, that goes a long way. As kids get older, it is more difficult, but you can still find those parents. And one thing that I think is happening now is parents are kind of banding together and saying, okay, we're just not going to do social media at all, as my child is a teenager, or we're not going to do any gaming, or, things like that. So if you kind of get rid of the worst culprits, that helps. As far as homework at night, I feel like this is a huge issue. It's very hard to re-regulate the nervous system if they're being forced to use the computer at night for homework. Obviously, they're doing other things too, while they're doing their homework. So I think one tip is to have them do it in a common area so that they're not multitasking and things like that. You can also ask the school to cut down on that screen-related homework. I had one family who just simply told the school, hey, if my kid doesn't get their work done during the day while they're at school, that's it. We're not doing any homework. And lo and behold, the child was able to get all their work done and not have to deal with that light at night. So there are ways to work around it. Load matters. So it really just helps to cut back as much as you can.
It's so helpful to talk to you. So many parents are curious about this and concerned about it, and this study certainly drives that home. Dr. Victoria Dunckley, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Brianna. I appreciate it.